This is the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, housed at the National Open University of Nigeria. It is a multidisciplinary research center, as we all know by now. Migration has come to be part of us. It is no longer ancient. It is no longer 19th, 28th centuries phenomenon. It is indeed with us now and forevermore. And that is what has been guiding us in our topic, in our presentation. So on that basis, for those who are just joining us for the first time, we do not need a password to join us. You just click and then you are in. If you want me to add you to the WhatsApp group, you have to send your number to my phone number, and then I will do that, gladly do that. It is not restricted to National Open University of Nigeria. It is global. As you can see, we have participants from all over the world. We have people from the Caribbean, from Canada, from US, North and South America as a continent. We have from Europe, from New Zealand, from Australia, and it is indeed a global center. We are also working on concretizing our partnership with institutions such as ECOWAS, particularly their migration unit. I've told them that COVID-19 has nothing to do with us not sealing the deal, and I think they are on top of the game now. I could be as aggressive as my passion for anything that I do, and I've apologized to them if I'm too aggressive. That is just me. Get it done. As a soldier, you accomplish the mission. You don't complain. If you don't accomplish the mission, you wouldn't survive. No complaining. So COVID-19 should give us that opportunity to be more creative, and that is what we are doing. We are also reaching out to International Migration Organization, which is a United Nations organization. And as you can see, it will create an opportunity for us to get grants to sustain what TED Fund has graciously given to our Vice Chancellor, and what the Vice Chancellor has done to create a forum for us, because he has, he could have used the money for something else, but we should be thankful to him. He has immortalized himself, in my opinion. And me being asked to serve came as a shock, but I thank him, I thank God, and we are waxing stronger. I also want to wish the first set of fellows. We created fellowship. It is not monetary, but it's also an opportunity to mentor, as well as to create avenue for people to research and also serve as a think tank with me as a director. The first wave of fellows, these are senior fellows and the associate fellows that we appointed, nominated and appointed by the Vice Chancellor, and they were issued letter by the registrar. That is the neatest way to do it, so that when Tijani is gone, maybe next month, it may be next year, it may be 10 years, it may be whatever, it will happen. Nobody will say, oh, where's the evidence? It was just issuing letter to you people. It is institutionalized. And that is why I said the registrar or the registry, human resources, must place issue, and the Vice Chancellor approved it. So I want to thank the Pioneer Fellows, 8 in all, 4 Senior Fellow, 4 Associate Fellow, Dr. Agbu, Dr. Aneto, Dr. Eric Mazu, Dr. Gamawa, Dr. Ome, Dr. Dochi, Dr. Kwari, and Dr. Orie, that talk across all our departments. We want to appreciate you for serving, for being the Pioneer Fellows. We also want to welcome incoming fellows that will start August 1st. It's a 3-month deal. We nominate and the Vice Chancellor approves, and then the registrar issue letter. For the first time, we'll be having distinguished professorial fellow. And the pioneer will be our most revered Professor Emeritus, Godwin Sogolo, will be joining us. He has agreed. One thing is for us to say we nominate, we got approval written. The person can say, oh, no, I don't. But we are so delighted, so happy that Baba agreed to share with us his experiences. So he'll be talking to us. He will be continue to mentor us. I believe last Monday in August, it will, it's just for a month. Then subsequently for September, the VC has also agreed to be the second distinguished professorial fellowship to take it up. And then, October and subsequent months, we will announce once we have the names. So again, I thank you very much. Let me also say that we have opportunity to publish our meeting and participation. You do not have to necessarily present a paper for you to turn in a paper for peer review. It's a different ballgame, okay? And we are willing to accept papers for occasional series. We are also willing to assess papers for the journal of the center, it's Journal of Migration and Global Studies. And I think that should help us to transition into a postgraduate degree program that we also plan to do at a point. So having said that, I really would like to invite or introduce the two presenters for today. So, by the way, each presenter will get a certificate of presentation. This is just a demo. It's not the real deal. It's a demo, and as such, don't. But we will get, just to again appreciate you for presenting. So you get this as you being projected. Today's presentation is from two scholars. Dr. Ozigbo just rejoined. I would just appreciate you for being earlier at about 10:30 or so. So today's presentation is by Dr. Felicia Ome, I believe I'm saying it right, and Dr. Erima Orie. They're both talking about the settlers. I think their presentation is germane for our discussion, for our knowledge, and for continued interrogation of what I call the son of the soil. I have not read their paper. Devil is a liar. We try to truncate their effort. The laptop crashed, the flash drive crashed, and but in the last few minutes, they were able to put it together. So, and I appreciate the two ladies to go English this time around. I'm trying to see. I know, Dr. Mia, I don't know what or how you sign in. I'm trying to give you, as we discuss, but I can see, okay, Felicia, that should be you. I will unmute you first, and I'll also make you, allow you to, let me see, project, make you co-host, but don't take over from me. Don't hijack and colonize me, Dr. Ome. And then Dr. Erima also, since both of you are not together, we can see your projection. No, okay. Let me make you also, I want to make you a co-host. Dr. Felicia, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, it's not. Unmute yourself, Dr. May, if you can hear me. And then you have to unmute Dr. Erima, your co-presenter. You see, that is one of the technicality. You give someone the opportunity to host, and then you are handicapped. Okay, both of them are
yes,
now
done.
Okay.
Yeah,
done. Okay, can you
yes.
only the host can share in this way? So you guys have logged me out. I can't. So you have to share from your hand. So you have the space now. Since I made you a host, the system is not allowing me to share. Okay. So, but we have to do that based on the story I've just told you. I really appreciate these two colleagues of ours. Their laptop crashed, you know, whatever was not working, and they have to start all over. And they share with me their PowerPoint. So as they speak to their paper, I will share with you on WhatsApp their PowerPoint. Okay. So again, as teachers, researchers, we must always have plan A, B, C. Again, as Mr. Wong told us, the success of a teacher is predicated on three things. Number one, preparation. Number two, preparation. And of course, number three, as Dr. Gulela is smiling as someone in Faculty of Education, and even John, is preparation. You cannot over-prepare. So please, you have the 35 minutes to speak to us. It's 11:09 now. Thank you. Dr.
Felicia.
Dr.
Yeah, I'll be starting.
Okay, so you take over, Dr. Rie.
Yeah, I will have suggested humbly that you share the slides while I talk.
Ma'am, I have explained that, and then you spend 1 minute already. I explained it. Maybe this thing was muted. Continue to speak. Dr. Omer will be sharing.
Okay.
You guys, you've colonized me. I've given you host opportunity, but I can't share.
Good morning.
The system is not allowing me to share.
Good morning, Professor Tijani. Good morning, Professor Emeritus Soglo, and all other professors on the platform. Good morning, my seniors and
sorry, Dr. Orie. Don't put me before a professor emeritus. I'm a baby professor. Please.
Well, take it,
we are all learning. You look whether the VC is there, whether the VC is there, principal officer, because they join us, they are here. Even if they are not there, that is the protocol. Then you go with Professor Emeritus before you remember the young man director and the small professor. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Well taken, sir. I was just mentioning your name when I cited him. I'm so sorry. The topic for today, as Prof has rightly said, is on Nigeria's settler indigene question, an appraisal of COVID-19 media discourse. This is a joint paper from Dr. Felicia, Faculty of Law, and myself from Faculty of Arts, Dr. Felicia, and myself, Faculty of Law. The outline, I'm sure, is on the screen, and it starts with the abstract, the introduction, followed by statement of the problem, aims and objectives, conceptual clarification, review of related literature, theoretical framework, methodology, findings, and discussion, then conclusion with recommendation. I'll skip the abstract since it's on display. I won't bore you with it. I'll just like to start straight with introduction. Pre-colonial history of sub-Saharan Africa and Nigeria show appreciable level of migration activities among the social groups. In addition, the political and socio-cultural boundaries during this period were marked by fuzziness and flexibility, so that people existed with the reality of multiple overlapping and collective identities. However, the British direct rule of governance, which recognized indigenous people and appointed them to govern the provinces as chiefs and clerks, the amalgamation of what used to be autonomous groups and people in 1914 and the eventual emergence of Nigerian state in 1960 all resulted in what has been described as institutional segregation of ethnic profiling and politicization of existing culture. In addition, the 1999 Constitution and its federal character principle and conditions for being an indigenous citizen of Nigeria also subtly suggests autochthony as the basis of access to some state resources. Thus, as far as migration is concerned, Nigerian citizens could be classified as indigenes and settlers. Against this background of the fact that Africans generally have strong attachment to ancestral land, Nigeria's dual citizenship status has generated tension and struggle among its citizens for access to scarce resources, such as land and other natural resources. Other struggles include the struggle for political office, education, employment, and several others. In turn, this has resulted in several clashes leading to loss of lives and destruction of property. For example, we have clashes between the Hausas and the Yorubas in Idi-Araba, Lagos. We have the farmer header clashes in the Middle Belt in fact, since 2016 up to date. We have the Hausa Yoruba clashes in Shagamu and several other places. These crises in turn, accompanied by discriminatory discourse, like statements like trace your roots before it's too late. Is it because we gave you a chance to stay here? Doesn't mean that you have a say. We are the real owners of the land. Such comments has helped to heighten the diversity or the ethnic clashes. The current COVID-19 pandemic has again brought to the fore the challenge of Nigeria's indigene settler dichotomy. Since the first index case of disease was confirmed in February 27, 2020, the country has faced with diverse challenges on how best to manage the spread. In all of this, the media has played a crucial role in disseminating information with regards to federal and state government efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19 virus and mitigate the challenges of the lockdown. The media also actively engage in public service announcements on safety prevention measures, news reportings of events connected to COVID-19 virus in the country, and globally, citizens' reactions to the challenges, debates on the pandemic, and several other roles. In the light of the persuasive nature of mass media and its potential to make salient points on the issues that will direct their readers or reviewers to a desired frame of mind, this paper seeks to critically investigate the discursive construction of settler-indigene dichotomy in Nigeria's media COVID-19 discourse with regards to access to resources and enjoyment of rights. Nigeria has shown some commitment to ensuring equity amongst its diverse ethnic groups through constitutional reviews, judicial white paper reports, media and military and security clampdown, provision of amenities to achieve national cohesion in this regard. For instance, in the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic, there's a provision for Federal Character Commission to ensure that recruitment into public service and federal institutions are done on quota basis to ensure equity among the various Nigerian ethnic groups. However, the Indigeneity clause has politicized and has been used also as a tool of discrimination among the citizens where access to resources is concerned. Also, Section 229 up to Section 223 of the 1999 Constitution also insists that all political parties must reflect the political diversity of the nation, must reflect that all people employed or members of the party are drawn from different sectors of the society. Sorry. The National Youth Service Corps scheme and National Orientation Agency are all meant to enhance unity. However, this issue has remained largely unresolved. Indeed, during the COVID-19 lockdown, some of the Nigerian media reports once again resonated with again resonated with underlying ideologies of settler-indigene dichotomy and citizens' unequal power relation. As migration is an inevitable aspect of life, whether internally or internationally, there is therefore the need to critically investigate the use of language in the mass media, a space which has been given or which serves as a platform on which information bordering on settler-indigene dichotomy, for instance, is disseminated. This is done with a view to making recommendations that will inform constitutional review on citizenship and ensure national cohesion, peace, and unity. The aim and objectives of this paper you also find on the slide, and I will not bore you with it. With regards to conceptual clarification, many scholars have defined indigene and settlers in various ways. And for purposes of this, you also find it on the slide, but for purposes of this discussion, the indigene settler dichotomy, this paper states that the indigene settler dichotomy reflects social mindset, which endorses natives' right to access resources, be it social, political, economic, labor, and so on, of particular states in Nigeria, and invariably deny those other citizens such privileges, no matter how long they have stayed in those states. In terms of media, conceptual clarification on the media, we also have several definitions, ranging from the one from Dogara and the one from Kadiri. You also find them on the slide. But for purposes of this study, the media is conceived as the device or platform through which far-reaching information dissemination is achieved. In addition, media agents are conceived as a complexion of voices of media professionals, such as journalists, reporters, pressmen, and other social actors, such as politicians, government officials, and citizens, who contribute to the settler migrant media narratives and produced during the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. Thus, when viewed together, the use of language in mass media is crucial to issues that affect national integration, such as settler migrant indigene discourse, because mass media discourse could be used to systematically shape the perception and ideologies of viewers or readers on issues of citizenship, discrimination, and unequal power relation. Invariably, this could serve to heighten tension and stimulate discontent among the citizenry. We also conceptualize national integration, and we said that with regards to national integration, Hogan postulates that the concept involves the uniting of formerly separate groups into one group with the obliteration of any previous social and cultural group differences, as well as the obliteration of separate groups in identifications. Now I go over to nexus between the indigene settler dichotomy and national integration. How are they related? We said that national integration requires citizens to avoid acts capable of endangering collective interests of all. These ingredients of collective interest appear to be the unifying factor. Indigene settler dichotomy thus hinders the existence of unity in diversity, thereby affecting the sense of regard for one another, true love, sincerity, and understanding among Nigerians. Indigene settler dichotomy, therefore, is an impediment to democratic ideals in Nigeria. Thus, where the indigene settler dichotomy increases, the national integration naturally will decrease, and vice versa. Review of related literature. It's been argued in some quarters that the indigene settler dichotomy in Nigeria could be traced to colonialism, whereby the amalgamated states bequeathed to the nation by the colonial masters was not aimed at fostering unity and diversity, nor was it meant to be a cohesive state. This was the view of Ojo in 2014. Therefore, conflicts arising from Nigeria's federalism, and particularly settler-indigene dichotomy, subnational citizen status, and struggles over geographical enclaves and access to state resources are areas which have attracted scholarly attention. Thematic research concerns in this regard range from challenges of Nigeria's federalism and Nigeria's indigeneity question. This study reflects similar observation that colonial influence plays a significant role in the complexities that trail citizen peaceful coexistence in the country. However, there are also indications that Nigeria's multi-ethnic structure and the contradictions inherent in the 1999 Constitution on Citizenship Dual Status also contribute to the challenge of inter-ethnic conflict in Nigeria. In this study, in their studies on the role of media in the escalation of ethnic, religious, settler indigent conflict, Sule and Katu also found that existing political and religious environment serve as structural determinants of the crisis, as well as communication behavior of the audience. The present study is also interested in the role of media discourse in the deconstruction of settler-indigent dichotomy in Nigeria. However, the point of divergence with other papers is that the present study is concerned with the critical investigation of Nigeria's settler-indigent access to resources as demonstrated in COVID-19 media discourse. I will, at this point, ask Dr. Felicia to continue with theoretical framework. She will take it, I will come back for conclusion and recommendation. With your kind permission, Prof, I'll be handing over to Professor Dr. Oamen. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Ore. All protocols duly observed. SARS and MAS in the house, but I would especially like to thank the Vice Chancellor, appreciate and recognize the presence of the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Abdallah, and our father in the house, Professor Emeritus, Professor Sogolo. Thank you so much, sir, for always being there. This morning, Dr. Ore has started the discussion on the media discourse of COVID-19 and how that is related to settler-indigent dichotomy in Nigeria. I'll be looking at the theoretical perspective and methodology and then findings of the study before handing over to her to conclude. Theoretical perspective, the interest of this paper, because our interest is in the investigation of media ideological construction of settler-indigent dichotomy in relation to their citizens' access to social resources. We therefore anchor this study on social constructionist theory and critical discourse analysis. Now, social constructionist theory, there are diverse discussions on this, but we are interested in Berger and Luckman, 1966, sociological approach to the study of construction of reality. Their argument is that there are three fundamental cyclical processes that every ideology in society go through. They go through the process of externalization, that is somebody gets an idea or a thought, and by interacting with others in society, that becomes habituated, it becomes a habit, and then that the idea begins to gain a life of its own. It becomes an object in society, begins to, be part of society. And then it becomes internalized by members of that society over time. And then those ideologies to up and coming generations become internalized. And they become ideologies. They start as ideas, they just start as, just ideas. But at the end of the day, they become fixated and society begins to imbibe it and see it as this is the way it ought to be. Those are the life cycle of ideologies. And so we are anchoring on this aspect of ideology processing. We're also anchoring on critical discourse analysis as an approach to the analysis of this study. Now, critical discourse analysis is one of the social constructionist approaches to the study of language in use. CDA is fundamentally interested in ideologies that have become naturalized, opaque. They are part of us. Ideas of relationship of dominance, discrimination, power that manifest in language use. But because they have become naturalized, they have become hidden, and we take them, there's a taking for grantedness about those ideas. So we are anchoring on these two theoretical perspectives to the study of language in use, so that we will be able to account for ideological expressions of power relations, dominance, and resistance in selected media discourse of COVID-19, which centered on settler indigenous struggle for access to state resources, particularly social welfare. So our methodology. In sourcing for this data, we actually withdrew 50 samples from some Nigerian media websites. We looked at news reports posted from February to June 2020. This period covers the inception of the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria to the total lockdown of the country, and then the gradual easing up of the system. The samples, which make up 22,250 words, that's the corpus, were purposively selected for the study. The purposive sampling strategy adopted helped to limit data to only those which expressed settler-indigene dichotomy in Nigeria's media discourse and shades of struggle among citizens for social welfare at this critical time. And the names of the newspapers, and then the television that we drew data from their websites are there. There are 15 in number. The data consisted of mainly written text, but then we had one audio-visual recording, and verbal transcription was carried out. To verbal transcription, nothing was changed, but we focused on the verbal, not the visual, and then we placed in selecting our data. We were interested in the reach. We were interested in how far, the reach of this media outfit, and then we were also interested in ownership. We felt there could be some shade of ideology that you could track from ownership based on studies on media reports. And then we used qualitative analysis, which includes description, interpretation, and explanation of the discursive components. Now, critical discourse analysis is what we're using, but one of the approaches we drew from Fairclough's 2011 member resources, and then Van Dijk's social cognitive approach to critical discourse analysis. Member resources is particularly interesting. The argument of Fairclough is that, people's interactions in society and the use of language are shaped by some things, ideas and ideologies that have gone into memory. These are your member resources, memories shared by groups, not individuals, which come up, in discussions and in the use of language in different communicative situations, and reflect assumptions, taking for granted assumptions, ideologies, social behavior, the way we perceive behavior, beliefs, and member resources. And of course, social cognitive approach talks about the fact that a group's control of power is linked to their manipulative use of discourse, of language in different communicative situations. And then we use qualitative analysis. We drew on qualitative analysis to investigate these influences of opaque ideologies and the structuring and functions of media discourse on COVID-19, which at closer look, you find issues of dichotomies and different issues from our structure, our societal structure, manifesting in the ways we use language. Now, findings and discussion. Because of time and space, we identified 4 discourse strategies: polarization, criminalization, emotional appeal, victim discourse, and legitimization. I'm sure there could be much more, which when we go to the full paper, we'll be able to reflect. And what were these discourse strategies used for? They were used to construct positive, negative, self, and other representation, respectively, as far as settler indigene relationships are concerned. Now for polarization. Now this discourse strategy usually is employed, to create cognitive binary of positive, negative, in-group and out-group representation, so that it is we are the good ones, they are the bad ones. And at the end of the day, what you use this to achieve is exclusionary discourse. If in this instance, in the study we looked at, we found out that some of the news reports, and don't forget, Dr. Ore mentioned our own perspective of actors in the social media. We're factoring in the voices of others beyond just the news actors. We're also looking at government and all that. So if you look at polarization, you are going to then find voices of government officials, politicians, and then of course the media, creating these exclusionary discourse frames in their discussion of issues, in their reportage of issues concerning settlers and indigenes during the COVID-19 discourse, and as far as issues of access to social welfare is concerned. This is one of the samples we found, we looked at. Now this was drawn from The Nation, April 29, 2020. And it has to do with Rivers sending 150 non-indigene vagrants to their home states. So there are peculiarities in the use of words. If you check, the settlers are described as vagrants, which strategically frames them as nuisance and delegitimizes their rights, their migrant rights in Rivers State. And you have the material process of rounding up and deporting, which is, which are also, which are material processes that frame these people as criminals. Then you have avoidance of blame. You find that the governor, the voice of the governor and the minister of social affairs, commissioner or whatever, permit me, are conflated, and to present a picture that avoids blame, because they say this is as part. The reason is as part of measures to curb the spread of corona pandemic. That is why these people have been told to go home. But don't forget, these same people are called vagrants. And then if you go lower, you find polarization really, prevalent and obvious. They say, we are sending them to their state of origin we are sending them to their state of origin to protect our people from the threat, of the pandemic. So the reason for which you are sending them away is because they have become threat to society. Now, this kind of discourse is, constructed against, the background. I'm talking about the avoidance of blame. Is constructed against the background that globally too there are discussions, there are arguments that in spite of the fact that it's okay to open borders to migrants, we should also think about the safety of those, we should marry and find a place, in our discussions to the safety of those who are already residing in that territory. And of course, we know in Nigerian environment, when we say those residing in the territory, as far as state power to access is concerned, to resources is concerned, we're actually talking about the indigents. And so when the governor says we are doing this to protect our people, against that global argument, Brook 2020, which I've just discussed now, you find that there is that avoidance of blame that he has been able to strategize and bring up through discourse. We can't go into too much details there. Criminalization is another discourse strategy that we found. Now, criminalization was adopted as a discourse to construct settlers in the shape of outsiders who are criminals and who are deviant. So, sorry, permit me. So you find that we have two samples here, one from Channels Television and the other from Sahara Reporters. The first one used, how were they criminalized in this instance? The Amajeris who escaped from isolation were said, Amajeris who left the isolation, you know, out of 530 of them left, ran away. They were said to have escaped and they were said to have been recaptured. In the third sample, you have a group from the East talking about the collaborative rogue operations and nefarious activities of Northern elders to export coronavirus to, you know, to the East through Almajiri index cases. Within these two, from these two samples, you find criminalization of migration activities. They could be legal, but there is a way it is criminalized. The first one, for example, is escaped and captured. Raise, what's it called? Metaphor of war. Metaphor of war. That's what it means when you use material processes or verbs such as that. You raise ideas of war. And so there have been conceptualization of war in the, you know, in the efforts of state governments to, you know, to handle the issue of coronavirus. But then there are global concerns to the use of metaphor of war as a discourse in, you know, the management of COVID-19 pandemic. People say when you do that, you make citizens look like soldiers and you place your relationship, state relationship to citizens based on duty and responsibility. And so there are fears that the more we keep using metaphors of war, what we will do is to begin to shift towards dictatorial leadership. And the third, you know, MD3, the one that talked about rogue operations, had the potential of raising, you know, is alluding to existing inter-ethnic fears of domination, suspicion, and all that. And so when you say Northern elders export corona Almajiris index cases to the South, export, that verb has the capacity, you know, and the adjective is collaborative, rogue, nefarious, you know, and that discourse strategy of blackmail or, you know, of exporting have the potential of raising, again, latent, you know, inter-ethnic rivalry and tension in the country. And this is, it follows, it agrees with what Suberu 2010 notes about inter-ethnic rivalry in Nigeria. He says it is largely due to hyper-centralized form of federalism and ethno-distributive structure, which have served to exacerbate rather than mitigate ethnic competition. And so when there are social events such as coronavirus, such as the one we find with coronavirus, tendencies for each ethnic group to begin to produce discourses such as this. We have emotional appeal stroke victim discourse. Incidentally, I will say a little about this, it's important. This, one of the samples, 3 out of the samples we got were samples that were, you know, produced from the angle of citizens angry with the way government was handling the issue of palliatives. The state governments, Abuja, and then Lagos were handling issues of palliatives. Settlers felt they were marginalized. And so what are the discourses that these settlers present, you know, in their relationship with indigenous? If you look at this one, we picked this because of space only. This one has to do with what happened in Kubwa. A resident, obviously a settler, was complaining about the fact that they were not giving palliatives, and the federal government, you know, FCTA officials said palliatives are only for indigents. So you begin to see discrimination right from the title. But what is important to me is the emotional appeal and victim discourse generated here. You find settlers in Nigeria, if you have to go by what you find here, some have come to a point where they have internalized discrimination, and there is that powerlessness when it comes to resisting dichotomy and discrimination. So you find this settler appealing to the power of the media and the power of the divine, after complaining about the fact that we had received information, and when they came with the food, they said it was for indigenous only. When that is framed, he goes at the end to conclude, help us tell them. Now this is a request discourse directed to the media. Help us tell them that God is watching what every human being is doing. For me, I perceive this as internalized discrimination. This person has come to accept that there is no hope. Now, we also have another discourse strategy that we find, identities for indigenous and then settlers. You find this one generated from a news report surrounding Governor Lalong. Governor Lalong was trying to legitimize the northern governor's decision to, I don't know what else, but the media keeps saying deport. So these are the ideologies that keep coming, send Amajeris back to their homes. And then he look at the way he frames the action. He tried to position the governors against critics. So he said, he used the noun politicization by critics. They have politicized this repatriation of Amajeris. And he describes his own action and that of the other governors as noble idea. And that and he now used the emotive adjective, is disheartening that they are planning to evacuate. Note, he did not say deport, he said evacuate. Evacuate means you are trying to save lives. You're actually trying to move them away from the danger zone. So you see the way he frames discrimination, and then to evacuate. And then this was a collective action anyway. By saying collective action, he kind of reduces, minimizes self-responsibility. And then he now uses home, what's it called? He uses family discourse to, of nouns such as home, children, families, to frame this deportation as not really being, evil after all, but well-intended. There's a copious and so many things we can look at the way discourse was framed to, to position settlers and indigenous dichotomy. In the victimization, which is the last thing I would say, in the appeal, emotional appeal and victim discourse, I found two power relations, The one we treated here is of an individual trying to show anger to the state. So you see his helplessness, and you see him, recursing back to divine for help. But we have two others where the resistance is coming from social groups. We have looked at one. If you look at the one of the one we cited on the southern southeast group, and then there's another one from Arewa group in Lagos. You find them able to assert more power, they are able to assert more power relation with government and all that, demanding for the right of settlers. But at the end of the day, you discover that because the number that you have of this kind of discourse is so limited to just about 3 to 46, you find that there is that significant silence that tells you that even the media, when it comes to the media platform, settlers don't really have much voice. Settlers don't have, you have more copious direction towards government, towards the indigenous than the settlers. So with regards to media coverage of COVID-19, there's that silence, as it were, which demonstrates a symmetrical power relation between state government officials and settlers with regard to issues of access to social resources. And this begins to lead us to conclusion, which Dr. Ore is going to handle now. Thank you so much for listening. Dr. Ore, please. Hello, Dr. Ore. Hello, Prof. Do I just go on with the conclusion? Hello? 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 Wow. Hello? Hello, sir.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm saying is that you have to please, just for the future, because of this, if I make you the host, given the circumstances in which we went into this today, always check the chat side. I've sent message that I cannot do anything since I, consider to you. But hopefully, I'll be able to be the host now. So can you just speak to the conclusion so that we can proceed? We have just 10 minutes. Can you hear me? Doc, unmute yourself and conclude.
Thank you. I can hear you now, sir.
Yeah, make me
I
the
can hear
host. Give me back the host stuff. I can't do anything from my end, so that we go to the next level.
Okay, I've unmuted. Okay.
No, not
okay,
just
so let me
unmute
just
me. Make me the host. Return my independence to me. You've colonized me since. I shouldn't be saying this because I've chatted with you, but you are not checking the chat. You have to multitask, okay, when you do this thing, so that you know what people are saying. Thank you. Now,
okay,
there
sir,
you go.
But I have made you the host now.
Thank you. Thank you. You owe me dinner. The VC is hearing us. We are conclude.
Okay, so in conclusion, we found that social actors employed cognitive binary of positive, negative representation of settlers, indigenes, in issues of access to state resources, and we found that polarization, criminalization, emotional appeal, victim discourse, and legitimization were discussed. The media platform served as a space for
Dr. Felicia, are you there? Dr. Ore, we lost you. Well, can everyone hear me? Please, if you can hear me, just
reproducing, and sustaining.
Okay. I want to thank you very much. Ibrahim Ezra, somebody is pressing your back. Maybe it's your daughter or your wife. Please, we can do that later, or you block your video. Thank you. I would like to thank the two presenters for a job well done in presentation. Can everyone hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, so far so good. I have two people that have shown interest to ask question or comment, but as usual, let me go and then first. I think the presentation, in my opinion, is impressive. I love the fact that the fluidity in our restructuring debate is again being raised. I remember that my contact with National Open University was to present a public lecture that has to do with narrating restructuring and development. And I'm looking forward to a revised paper that will be published. I love the methodology adopted and the contextualization. However, I would like to state that I'm in disagreement with the origin, the issue of Omonile. As a Yoruba boy, I don't know how you would say that in Hausa or Igbo or Mumuye language or whatever, or Jukun and TV. But the issue of son of the soil is, it predates colonialism. It actually predates colonialism. I will share a paper, I think I published in 2006 in the Historical Society of Nigeria on the Awori factor. When you talk about Lagos State, you talk about the Awori, then you talk about the Benin, and then you look at the debate in terms of who owns the land. So when you also talk about this type of topic, I think you should look into the issue of land. Beyond federal character, land. Land is the most, is one of the most issues that oftentimes leads to violence and conflicts and whatever. On that note, I will call in this order Dr. Williams to make his comment or question. Don't represent the paper, Dr. Williams, please. And then the Vice Chancellor, Professor Abdallah Ubadamo. I've asked both of you to unmute yourself, and I believe you are, okay, both of them are mute. Dr. Williams, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. I want to thank the presenters. First, let me draw their attention to the abstracts. And like we keep saying on this platform, the abstracts basically sends a direct message, particularly to the users, the readers of the work. First and foremost, the abstracts is more than, I think, the required number of words, so they need to look at that and then come to terms with that. Secondly, if your methodology is not reflected in your abstract, to a very large extent, it disconnects the entire flow of the work in the abstract. So let them look at it. I think it wasn't also reflected in the abstract. Secondly, you know, in PowerPoint presentation, when it's too worded, it becomes very confusing sometimes for the flow. So even for the presenter, so as much as they can, subsequently, I want to encourage them that, particularly within that statement of problem, is too worded. When PowerPoints are too worded, it creates some level of confusion. So I must commend them for their presentation. Thank you, sir. You unmute yourself, sir. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much. I said the Vice Chancellor, sir, and after Vice Chancellor, John, I don't know whether it's John Ali or John Oparadu. You can go ahead, but let me know which of the Johns. As long as it's not John the Baptist. The Vice Chancellor.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I have two basic broad observations to make. Number one has already been made by Amina Williams about the wordiness of a PowerPoint. A PowerPoint is just that, a PowerPoint. A slide shouldn't contain more than 5, 6 points. You don't cut and paste your paper and then start pasting it into the PowerPoint. It doesn't make sense. If you take this outside Nigeria, you will be laughed at because the moderator will tell you to just simply switch it off. What they have done is just simply take their paper, cut and pasted it directly into the PowerPoint. It doesn't make sense. That's not done. The idea is you talk to the paper through the PowerPoint. And therefore, it means that every slide shouldn't contain more than 5 or 6 points, what you'll be able to discuss. So I think this is, we need to become internationalized when it comes to presentations so that we can do something that is worldwide and accepted. If the old man did what they did, I can accept it because during his time there was nothing like PowerPoint, but not younger people. The old man like that is Sogolo. If he does it that way, I understand. He doesn't know what a PowerPoint is. It's too ancient for that. But now let's get back to the actual paper itself. Up to now, I have not seen from all the presentations that have been done so far the relationship between temporary settlers and permanent settlers. Now, the paper seemed to focus on a very misunderstood concept. I'm a northerner, I'm a Muslim, I'm from Kano. So I know what Al-Majiri is. Most of the people talking about Al-Majiri do not understand what an Al-Majiri is. Al-Majiri is a wandering scholar. And I said at one stage that all of us here are Al-Majiri. So long as you did not study in your own village, in your own hometown, you moved from your hometown to University of Ibadan, and you are not from Ibadan, or to University of Lagos, or wherever it is, you are Al-Majiri. It is just that simple. So Al-Majiri doesn't necessarily mean a settler. It just means somebody who has gone to another place to study. We all went outside the country. Most of us went outside the country to study, but we returned back home. So what's the relationship between temporary settler and permanent settler? There are settlers who decide to stay there because they start to move. And once you decide to move from Nigeria to Libya and from Libya to Italy, you have already forgone your right to your identity. Because if you want to maintain your identity, stay home. But the moment you go to another place and say, I want to make this place my home, I'm not going to go back to Nigeria, you have no right to any other identity except the identity of the place that you are. Now, the Al-Majiri discourse about COVID-19 was not because of all this settler, non-settler dichotomy, but simply because of the congestion in the Al-Majiri schools. Most of the people who talk about Al-Majiri have never actually been inside Al-Majiri school. I was an Al-Majiri myself. I participated. I was in the Al-Majiri schooling system. And I can see how I can remember how jumbled we are. We're all choked up, about 50 kids in a very tiny hallway. And that is very dangerous because after the classes, students disperse and you never can tell whom they will get in contact with and come back with COVID. So if we are talking about all this business of resettling Al-Majiri through critical discourse analysis and the way in which newspapers made a lot of noise about it, why are we not using the same methodology with regards to decongestion of the prisons? Because prisons were also decongested during that particular period. And why did they discongest them? They said it is because of COVID-19. In a room, in a prison, you find about 50 people, 100 people all jam packed together. And that's exactly the reason why the Al-Majiri were dispersed to go back home. Not really because of all these power relationships or asymmetrical power relationships, but simply because the government wants to reduce the congestion of the Al-Majiri schools. I would urge people, our friends, our colleagues from the southern part of the country, to actually go to an Al-Majiri school in Core North, particularly in Maiduguri, and see how these children live. Close to my house, there is a settlement where Al-Majiri live, and there are over 100 of them, all tiny kids. And they, after their prayers, they go out, beg, or do whatever it is that they do, but they can meet somebody else, contact the COVID, and then come back and then spread it all over the place. So governments in the north took the decisive action of going on for a very long time. That Almajiri chief global relationship. But a lot of kids, a lot of parents have so many kids that they don't know what to do with them. So they just simply bundle them up to the city. So I disagree with the notion that the disposition of Almajiri through critical discourse analysis is a display of asymmetrical power relationship or something like that. What about the Igbos who are living in Kano? Nobody was asking them to leave. What about the Yoruba who are living in Kano? Nobody asked them to leave. And yet the ones that were asked to leave were people who were living in a particular condition. And that particular condition is congested, is dirty, is capable of breeding more and more diseases. And that is why the government decided that the best thing to do is to decongest them to go off. But nobody asked the Igbos in Kano to leave. Nobody asked the Yorubas in Kano to leave. Nobody asked any other settlers to leave. Anybody who decided to leave left on his own. The trailer load of people who went to the east were not trying to go there and do a jihad, as some people believe. They just simply left because there was no livelihood in the north. So they went up there, down south. They just want to get out because of the lockdown. So I think we need to contextualize our arguments within historical and realistic factors. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chancellor. We will take John, and then the last person will be Oyebode. Please make it like 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. I want to appreciate. Okay. Irrespective of the fact I want to make it brief, I want to appreciate my Vice Chancellor, I can see here, and Professor Emeritus Songolo and Professor Tijani. My question is, I can notice that this paper is an empirical paper, and I'm not all that okay. If I just want to find out, how can information from newspapers be reliable for an empirical research? Because all the data collected in the paper presented, they're all from newspapers. Because we know that some of the newspapers don't carry genuine distance. And secondly, you did not tell us the instrument you use in your data analysis. Because when you collect your data, you're supposed to analyze it properly so that we exactly know exactly. So I just want to put this.
Thank you very much. Dr. Oyebode, did I unmute you? Oyebode, let's see. Oyebode. Just 1 second. Okay, unmute yourself now.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. I want to thank the presenters, but I have some observations with regards to the theories used. I know that this is discourse analysis, but since we are putting it within the realm of multidisciplinary paper, as much as possible, I think they should look at theories that have to do with the media, especially with regards to media effect. As a peace scholar, I'm concerned about the effect of the reportage of the media on the populace. And if we look at the theory and media effect, they're able to situate whether the reportage can cause further conflict, can probably cause further trust gap, and a host of others like that. Then again, I expect that because somebody is coming from law, they will educate us whether it is right, or whether the governors are right, or the people are right, or whether they have the right to deport people who are coming, who are Nigerians. Do we need visa to go to any place in Nigeria? Do the governors or whoever have the right to deport people back to their homes? So these are issues that I expect that they will touch with regard to the way the media have reported them, and the way the governors have also acted, and the way the people have also taken it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take us to using the issue of censorship of the media with regards to gatekeeping theory. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Oyebode. Last but not the least, Dr. Matthew, we have 10 seconds.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Zori and Orman, for a commendable effort. But I just wanted to point out that in your methodology, it is often suggested that if you want to use media analysis to be able to do an investigative paper like this, you should, as a rule, also employ a quantitative approach. Relying as you did expressly on qualitative will not give the complete picture. So from experience, it's often been suggested that if you do media analysis like you have done in this instance, selecting 15 media outlets, you should, as a rule, do a content analysis as well. Because, media coverage often is segmented into different sections: news reports, editorial, letters, opinion, etc. So to be able to have a true picture of the spread of the coverage, you should do a content analysis. And in instances like this, we always advise that it is not out of place for you to look for a statistician to help if you think that you will not be able to address the quantitative angle to your paper. So, and then because you also said about the discourse strategy that you use in this paper, polarization, criminalisation, and all that, the media reports, how do they fit into this segmentation that you've done? So that's why it's important to do a content analysis of those papers. So in doing
thank you very much, Dr.
I suggest that you do that.
I have to stop you.
Yes,
Thank you. I'll allow the presenters to respond, and then we can take the debate to the WhatsApp group or the Telegram group. Dr. Omer and Dr. Ore, kindly respond. Both of you are on mute. And if the comments are noted, we can close the shop. Noted for further review. Are you there? Okay, let me. Dr. Ore, you've been asked to unmute.
I've unmuted, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to say thank you to everyone that has contributed, particularly to our daddy, the VC. His point is noted. We were just trying to say that everyone, no matter where you settle, should be recognized, because ab initio, we are all settlers. Whether the ones who say they're indigenous and the ones who came, everybody is a settler. I'm going by the Constitution to say that everybody must be recognized and the rights substantiated as such. You cannot discriminate against somebody by the fact that you arrived earlier, because basically that is what it means. Those who arrived first and those who came later. Everybody is a settler, and the rights as accorded by the Constitution should be recognized as such. Thank you also for your comment on the PowerPoint. Is well taken, and for our daddy, Professor Soglo too. I would also like to say that
we lost you. Dr. Omer, can you take up from where she started? Do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you so much, sir. The VC, I appreciate. I missed out on Dr. Herima. I was looking out for his comment, but I missed. I was cut off at that time. Our notion of our margeries, and we were not focusing on our margeries. We were just looking at diverse types of.
For the rest of the questions, I'll also give the.
Our notion of the margeries, we were looking at settlers who had access, who had rights to state resources, but were delegitimized. They were there, and they were at debates and issues for other times. For Dr. John asked the question on which instrument we used. Is empirical, and this is qualitative. So what we did was we did an interpretative analysis, and we interpreted. we explained, we did explanatory and interpretative, and then we worked with the thematic, we worked on the themes that we could find to make it systematic as much as possible. And I want to link that to what Dr. Oguche said. Yes, you are correct, sir. We actually have a plan to do content analysis as well. But we were choked up by the volume of information we had here. And we just had to, leave that for the, the complete paper. Thank you, sir. Dr. Oyeboade, yes, you are correct about theories of the media. In fact, when we were doing this study, we began to see the gatekeeping, framing, priming, aspects of media that we knew we had to factor in to be able to answer some questions. So we'll take that into cognizance when we look at the full paper. Thank you so much, sir. These are the ones I can respond to.
I want to thank you very much for your time. I thank everyone for also finding time to come. We really appreciate you. And until we meet again next week, Monday, I'll say goodbye and God bless. Thank you.
Bye-bye.